All right, welcome to Money Matters. You've got Kevin Hunter, your North Texas home hunter, and Brian Knatzer.
I'm with Cardinal Financial. I'm a mortgage lender of 29 years experience, licensed in 16 states, but can lend in all of them through Cardinal Financial. So we concentrate on Texas and what's happening really here in North Texas.
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to talk about was kind of the equity that people can build in their homes,
Yeah.
right? The real value, right? So it's as easy as, what do you currently own, right? What do you owe versus the loans that are out there, right? So what's the value of your home minus all your outstanding loans? And we saw people during the COVID times to do some landscaping, put in pools, right? Everyone was trying to kind of create that staycation, like, hey, if we're gonna have to sit in our homes, then we want it to be nice,
Yeah.
right? We put in a pool, right? It's really, really standard. So we see people utilizing that equity and potentially buying down, other high interest rate, whether it's a credit card or a loan or something like that. What are you seeing kind of out in the industry?
We've done very few refinances in the year 2023 because of where rates have been.
Right.
But every single refinance we have done has been like a cash out or debt consolidation refinance. We even had one client who lives here in Frisco who is now wanting to move to Salina, but his wife actually lost her job. And by doing the refinance, even at a much higher rate than what I had put them at back in the year 2021, we took a total monthly outflow of $1,800 a month in cars and credit cards. And we increased their house payment by $600, but we wiped out $1,800. So they got a net improvement on a monthly basis of $1,200
Wow.
in their monthly budget. And in his words, it literally was the difference between them being able to keep everything or having to sell everything. Yeah. So that's one of the ways that they can truly do that. And you get to deduct the interest on your home, on your primary residence home mortgage. So you don't get to deduct, compound interest on a credit card, and you don't get to deduct interest even on a vehicle that sometimes may not make sense to roll it out there for that entire period of time, to re-amortize it over 15 years, 20 years, or 30 years. But you can always pay faster on your mortgage if you want to, okay? And every mortgage, that if you add them all together, throw it up in the air and let the dust settle, okay? No mortgage lasts 4 years. Like the average pays off in less than 4 years. So there are people that pay it off over 15, pay it off over 30. But the common denominator is actually more likely to be much faster than that, whether you refinance that loan, where you sell that house and buy another one. So use that equity as a financial vehicle to help your family take that next step forward.
Yeah. So what are some of the pros and cons of the kind of leveraging the equity you have in your house, taking out a loan? What are some of the pros and cons of something we've seen a lot of people do over the last couple of years, right? Because when you look at the market overall, we don't have the fear that we had decades ago, where everybody's upside down in their house, mortgage rates are going up, people are freaking out, they're losing their homes, right? That's not happening, based on the fact that people have been more fiscally responsible, right? And they have paid down their homes to the point where they're not upside down, or they've got some nice equity. So what are some positives and maybe some things to kind of watch out for when people getting these loans?
Let me start with the watch out for, because there actually is one. If you do a cash out refinance on your primary residence, the Texas home equity laws have restricted the total amount of money that can be loaned against that property is 80% of the appraised value. Okay, so what if you do a cash out refinance this year to pay off all your credit cards and maybe a motorcycle or a motorhome, whatever it is you're paying off? You have that Texas home equity law that is now limiting you to 80%. What if next year, what if next year you want to put in a pool?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what if that pool's $80,000, which is actually not a very expensive pool, right? But it'd be $80,000.
Yeah.
Well, the Texas home equity law that you just used to pay off credit cards and short-term higher interest debt is going to limit you from being able to borrow that $80,000 against your home to do that. So you're going to have to basically refinance that loan again and hope that your home has appreciated, or you can refinance this loan again, not take cash out, and it reconverts it to a non-Texas home equity loan, but that's extra cost you're going to incur to go get that pull. So just being cautious about that restriction that the Texas home equity laws have in place, that restrict how much money you can borrow against your home to do anything. Because let's say you don't have a Texas home equity loan where you're taking cash out. You can go get a pull loan up to 95% of your home's value. So if you owe, say 85% of your home's value, you can go get 10% of that value in a home improvement loan, which is different than a home equity loan.
Yeah.
Okay? So the Texas home equity laws for cash out refinances, they do restrict you to 80% of whatever that home's appraised value is for the total amount financed on the property. Okay. But the pros is that it can truly free you to pay for kids' college. Okay. It can free you potentially to buy other investment properties if you want to borrow against your home's equity to do that. There are many different things that it can fuel. And the beauty about that is, and specifically also, we are so blessed and insulated here in North Texas that our home values over the last 20 years have improved more than 110%. If you bought a home in the year 2000 and you're looking at maybe selling that house now in 2023, the average across the 7 main counties right here in North Texas is over 110% appreciation. So that includes 7 years of negative equity washing into that as well. So you can reasonably assure yourself that your home is an investment that will grow for you, even while you're paying down that mortgage and building equity in what you're reducing by reducing your mortgage balance. The home's going to be growing on the other side of it too. It's a double delta, right? We're kind of burning the candle at both ends, except the right way.
Well, and I like one of the things you kind of touched on is kind of a positive, right? Is that, hey, if we're going to have this additional funds that are available, sometimes people use that to build future wealth, right? And so whether it's other investment property, whether it's stock, there's other vehicles out there that let you grow your wealth and allow you to have kind of different conversations at the end of your work life, right? I know people that have been smart in investing early and have trimmed 5-10 years off of, like, hey, I'm going to retire at 65 or I'm going to retire at 70. They're done, right? I'm super envious. I'm like, oh man, why did I think of that? But they're already done, and they've got the nest egg built up, and they've thought of everything. And so, being able to use a home equity loan to pay down, right, to free up some of that debt, and then use that intelligently, all right? Because that's the other con, right? That's the thing you need to stay away from is, if you're going to use that home equity loan to pay down other debt, making sure you don't reacquire that debt.
True.
And that's what I see a lot of people do is they're excited. Wow, we've got all this money available, all these funds available, right? You have to be disciplined. If you're going to use that home equity loan, that's good. But make sure that you're not allowing yourself, right? Making sure that you're disciplined and not reacquiring that debt.
So, and you're talking about using your home's equity as that financial vehicle. I counseled a young couple yesterday who have a good amount of money in the bank, but they have like 7 credit cards, and they're all 5 figures, and they all have 5-figure balances on them. And they were talking about buying a $400,000 house and putting down 20%. Okay, so just yesterday, I said, hey, this is where your primary residence helps you build wealth, because what I'm going to help you do is I'm going to help you save money by actually having a little bit higher mortgage payment. But let me show you this. And I built a graph for them, and I showed them the difference between putting 5% down. And yes, you've got PMI, because they're so adamant. We don't want PMI. Well, you've got an 806 middle credit score. Your PMI is this, right? But I said, what's the interest rate on your city card? 17.89. I went, oh, it's that low. I mean, I didn't expect that. I was expecting it to be 20. Okay, well, tell me what it is on the Capital One card. It's 21.2, right? So, okay, guys, let's do this. It'll tremendously affect what you have the ability to do. Let's portion this over here to where we use less towards this home and get rid of the short-term debt. And then what does your monthly outlook like? And it was actually a $351 a month plus for them to borrow more money against the home as they're buying it and paying off the credit card debt. And I said, what I would recommend is paying that towards the principal balance to reduce it faster so that you get out of PMI, right? Because once that principal balance reaches 78% of the original purchase price, PMI falls off automatically.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just, you don't have to ask for it, it just falls off. Or how about start putting in a rainy day fund? Because what if the AC goes out? I bought a house in April of 2022. 4 days later, the hot water heater literally exploded in the garage.
Yeah.
Well, that was a $2,600 fix, right? That's not cheap. You've got to have a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
So start putting that $351 a month in your rainy day fund, and don't touch the stuff in your investment accounts. Leave that there, right?
Yeah.
So build out a 3 month reserve of what you have, and just let it sit there for what if you need a new roof and you have to pay the deductible, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the home is trying to remember the exact statistics. I apologize for not remembering. But bottom line is, the vast majority of Americans, when they go to retire, over 80% of their personal wealth is built up in their home's equity. I mean, that's a proven fact. It's a statistical fact that I've read recently, and it's a very high majority of Americans. I want to say in a high 70% range.
Yeah.
That actually is the case.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I remember years ago when we kind of did a refinance in our home, that was one of the things we talked about, right? Because I wanted to shrink the amount of months on our payment, and we just figured, as we looked at our budget, hey, can we stretch? Because that's going to be really tight, right? And we just felt like at the time, no, let's keep it at the 30-year. Because a 15-year at that point is just gonna push the payment up enough to where if we weren't able to create that rainy day fund, right? And that's when people buy homes. I don't know that they really put that much thought into it, right? Because they're thinking, oh, I've got utilities, I've got this, that, and the other. What about the unplanned? The cars, right? You said water heaters, right? Kids going to school, right? If you move to a neighborhood and all of a sudden maybe it's not the best school district, right? So you want to put your kid in a private school, right? So do you have these things built into your budget? Luckily, I married into someone who's very budget conscious, right? She's got a spreadsheet, right? We sit down every single month and we go, here's what we got coming in, here's what we got going out, and where are we, right? Mm-hmm. And where do we need to tighten things, where do we need to get rid of things, and where can we kind of invest in some things, right? And so I think when you're buying a home, you do need to get that spreadsheet started. You need to say, okay, here's what it's going to cost, right? So besides your mortgage payment and insurance and all that kind of good stuff, and utilities and cable and internet and right, what about the unplanned? And that's where people, I think they don't give themselves enough wiggle room, right? Like we have a safe in our house, right? And we're in Texas, so we're allowed to have guns, and so we have a big safe, and it is impenetrable, and I'm not asking anybody to try. I'm just saying it's big.
You're like even fireproof.
Fireproof.
Yes.
So we have all of our documents in there, right? All the stuff that we can't replace, government stuff. We got a little cash in there too, right? Mm-hmm. And that's like, to me, the total rainy day fund. It's like we're about to go on vacation. Well, let's take a little bit out. We need some cash for all these incidentals, but we have rainy day fund, and then we have, like, literally in our house, we've got a little bit of extra just to make sure we can get through the day. If the world goes crazy, bank shut down.
I know that.
Right.
That's happened to some folks this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So being able to not, overcommit on a payment for a house, but still be able to kind of plan in and budget your day to day, and what happens if, right?
Yeah.
The unexplained.
Absolutely. So in our financial coaching that I get from my coaching group, that I also, again, I poured into that young couple even yesterday.
Yeah.
Like step number one is there is a metric, and you can stay within a little bit of a variable, but the metric is whatever your gross annual income is, you should be buying a primary residence that's worth 3 times what that number is.
Okay.
And budgetary wise, it literally fits within the numbers, within the ratios and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
The second piece is you build that rainy day fund, 3 months worth of your need. Whatever your monthly bills are, build up that cash reserve. It is imperative that you do that.
Right.
But number 3 is max out your retirement accounts, your IRAs, your 401ks, especially if you have an employer match. Max that out. And then when you get past that, then there's an investment strategy where you can reasonably choose indices or the core stocks, like Microsoft. Honestly, they're a core stock. Amazon has now become a core stock.
Tesla.
Yeah, well, and not Tesla's kind of on the outside because
Is it?
nobody really knows where EVs are going, the electric vehicles. But Ford actually would be considered an essential stock. Well, for some people, it'd be GM would be an essential stock. So,
All right.
but you're going to need some essential stocks for that investment strategy.
Right.
So I can always tell the clients what I have, what I've been coached to get. But right now, I can tell you I've had all of my retirement money in S&P 500 funds, because 401k, you don't really get to manage that.
Yeah.
So if you just get it into an index that has moved over the years as one of those standards.
Yeah.
Made 19.1% of my money year to date just because it's following the S&P. You're going to have ups and downs, but usually the S&P goes up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's part of that conversation with our clients, is talking to them about their financial advisory and the financial steps that they need in order to prepare themselves for success and not get caught with the that gotcha moment.
Yeah, and I guess that's why I'm starting to, and maybe it's because I'm in real estate now and I'm aware of all the different avenues to really exponentially grow your wealth. But you look at our house, right? We bought it 10 years ago, and it is literally almost doubled in price, right?
Yeah.
And that to me is a return that S&P is not providing.
Yeah,
right?
true.
And so to me, real estate feels a little bit more stable, right?
It's the best investment you can make.
In North Texas, Frisco, Prosper, Salina, as we continue to grow north, then those are the returns on your investment that are really paying off, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, just within the last 10 years, to see the value in our home, the equity just double, right?
Well, I've got an investor, and then I've helped him with his primary residences, 2 different occasions. But I met him back in 2013. I helped him buy 2 investment properties that year. Fast forward to 2021 and 2022, he sold those investment properties, and he put them on a 15-year note, basically not counting on making a lot of money on them.
Right.
But now what is it now? Like 8 years. It was 8 years and then 9 years on the second one. Yeah. And he's on into a 15-year note. And then you've got the equity growth. He was able to take the profits from the sale of those investment properties, put it into a 1031 exchange, and he turned one of those into buying 3 more. And he's doing the exact same thing with those. The second one, he actually put it into a 1031 exchange and put an extra 5%, put 25% down on 2 other properties. So he has gone from 2 investment properties over the course of 8 years and now 9 years to now having 5, and he's doing the exact same plan. And what his plan is, when his kids are ready to go to college, he's going to sell one of those homes and write a check.
Yeah.
Like no school loans. Yeah. His kids won't be burdened with them. They won't be burdened with them. You talk about a super smart investment strategy. And his father-in-law told him about this back when he first got married.
Yeah.
Right. So this is and his father-in-law's totally blue collar, worked in a factory all of his life.
Wow.
But he did this for his children.
Yeah.
Way back when, starting in the 60s and 70s. And this is what it's done for him, So now he's got 17 investment properties. The father-in-law does.
Yeah.
He's, ready to retire, and he's got nearly $20,000 a month in retirement income coming in on homes that are now paid off.
Yeah.
So there's no better investment than real estate. I mean, especially here in North Texas.
Yeah. And there's ways to invest, and it's not the entire value of the home, but for grandparents and parents to invest in their children's real estate, where you do get some tax exemptions and you do kind of get sheltered from that as well, right?
Exactly.
So I know a lot of people are starting to establish credit for their children, right? They're buying things in their kids' names, right? They're buying they're buying homes and condos, right, in the area where their kids are going to school. I remember when I went to college, both of my roommates, their parents bought a condo, and the 3 of us lived there. And then, just to watch the value of the condo go up year after year. And some of us kind of stayed at school a little bit longer, and we got to watch it, continue to go up. But the fact that they were smart enough to buy this property, and then it's not really like you're paying, right, for your kids' residence, right, while they're going to school. You're investing, right? And when they sold it 5-6 years later, I mean, it was insane to see how much the value had increased.
I've got an example from a mentor of mine who's a really good friend of mine, and he's actually a loan officer here in this area, but he's also a mortgage leader. He's a coach in his own right. He started investing in real estate, individual properties as single-family residences 9 years ago. Just a couple of years ago, the value on those properties had reached a level that, things were crazy in 2020 and 2021. He took advantage of that and sold, he built up to 42 investment properties when he did this. He sold 42 single family investment properties. He formed an LLC in one son's name, another LLC in another son's name, and went and bought apartment buildings with the proceeds from those investment properties. And you talk about building generational wealth, right? So as long as those entities are involved and his sons have not come of age, they are running it, managing it, and letting it grow. But you talk about that. That's a very strategic way to legally help kick that tax can down the road for your future generations as well.
Yeah, and it's a little bit counterintuitive, right? Because as a realtor, I get paid when somebody either buys or sells a home. But one of the first conversations I have with a potential client who wants to sell their home, I ask them, can you not sell it, right? Can you just go buy a home and then rent this home out, right? And then let somebody else pay your mortgage down. And now you're building wealth into this property. So as much as I would love to sell their home and then help them buy a home, if you want to be a good steward for your clients, you really have to help them understand all of the opportunity in front of them and what are some of the really smart kind of life-changing decisions, right? And the ability to rent a home and whether you get like a company to manage it, right? Or if you're nearby, you can take care of it, right? Some people just don't want to deal with this, they'll get a management company. But at that point, you're having somebody else pay down your mortgage, right? And then at that point, you're building wealth.
So I had a coach in the first half of this year, and one of the exercises he made us do on a call one time was go pull up your first house that you bought on Zillow, right? And basically it was going, so buying and selling real estate, that's the win is in the waiting.
Yeah.
But I would say don't ever sell, right? Because one of these days you're going to have to, but if you don't have to, don't. But keep buying. Yeah. So I Googled the first house that Cindy and I bought, and we bought it for $82,000. Okay. $217,000.
Yeah.
That's what it's worth now. $217,000, and that's in Mesquite, Texas. So,
wow.
Then I started doing the other houses, and my goodness. I mean, just what if I'd held on to them? What would my actual net worth be now?
Obviously, conversations about building equity in homes, but it seems like there's, at least what I'm hearing, there's some good things happening in the market on your side. So kind of give us the, as of the 6th of December, what is the current state of the union on the finance piece?
We got some really good news. We've got really good news happening right now. The data and all the trends that we were expecting, literally this entire year, we've been talking about it. You and I have even talked about it. They finally started coming together. Okay? Yeah. So over the last 4 weeks, just over 4 weeks, rates have actually dropped 1%. Actually, more than 1%. And
Incredible.
The predictions, and actually even this morning we got some good news. It's not good overall. The ADP non-farm payrolls, they were talking about, the jobless claims. Bottom line is the data is moving in the direction that we need it to allow rates to continue to fall. I don't know if it'll happen in December, but we believe maybe even in January. We were 5 weeks ago, we were at 8.5% on 30-year fixed rate mortgage for a single family residence, primary residence. We think we're going to be in the sixes by January, maybe even this month, because it's moving pretty aggressively. Wow. But it's moving. And what's cool about that is it's almost like as if, without really even telling everybody individually that that's what's happening, the public is feeling it.
Yeah.
And applications have jumped month over month 18%, and it's increasing on a daily basis just since Thanksgiving. I mean, literally, it's almost the applications are jumping back into it. And they're increasing in a rapid pace. But even more than that, the clients that I've worked with earlier this year, they were holding off for better rates. It's kind of like they're either normalizing to the market is what it is, and yet they're done waiting, or they're starting to feel that relief in the market coming back to them. And we're getting calls of clients that are actually going out and writing contracts on homes literally, at a moment's notice. So, listings and sellers are actually a part of this as well. Like they're starting to feel the normalization, even though rates are coming back down. They're not locking themselves as much to that lower interest rate mortgage. They're going ahead and doing what they believe they needed to do, either for their family, for retirement reasons, for commute reasons. And there's more houses coming back on the market right now. So if you get lower rates, there are more houses on the market, it's going to create an opportunity where it's going to be, it's been the right time to buy all along, all summer, all fall.
Yeah.
Now, get into the game, right? Do it right now. Take advantage of these rates coming in. There was a study done. I'm not a huge fan of Zillow, but this was not wrong. They bring some good content.
Yeah.
So they've got some points. They believe there's going to be tremendous relief for primary residence home buyers in the year 2024.
Yeah.
And part of it is the borrowing cost is going down. Okay. That trend of more homes coming back on the market that I just mentioned, they're citing that is actually starting to happen because sellers are now opening up to that idea of going ahead and making moves for themselves.
Yeah.
But the investors, the institutional investors in the market, they have pulled back dramatically because of the borrowing costs being so high that their return on investment is not really what they need for their. So those home buyers that were getting beat out by cash offers when 27% of the homes being purchased in the last couple of years were cash by institutional investors, they pulled back into the single digits of all the transactions.
Wow.
And that actually just came out. That was data reported in November. So for first-time home buyers, any home buyer, they're going to have a better chance at buying a home without tremendous, pressure against those institutional investors.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be a boon for people that want to buy homes.
Yeah. And one of the things we talked about is, with the rates a little bit higher, there's still lots of good, opportunities out there. And if you wait, then all this pent-up demand is going to explode, and there's going to be multiple offers. Are you paying, cash over whatever the asking price is? And so it feels like, from what you're saying, maybe we're starting to get there.
Yep. So we also have two other really good pieces of news when it comes to borrowing. Okay. The conforming loan limit, the loan limit where you can put 5% down, and the loans basically are securitized with Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. They're called the conventional loans. Okay, that loan limit just went up to $766,500.
Oh wow!
So what does that mean? That means you can buy probably right about a $805,000 house and put 5% down. The second piece of good news that just came about in November is that you can now buy multiple unit properties with you living in one of those units with only 5% down. So used to, if you're buying a duplex, you needed duplex, triplex, or quad, you needed 15% down, even if you were going to live in one of the units. Well, now you don't. You can go out there and buy a fourplex, live in one of the units, put 5% down, and you have 3 investment properties working for you.
Wow.
Or a duplex.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, without question, whatever you charge on a duplex on the other side, it's going to pay the mortgage payment. I've done the numbers hundreds of times. So you can start your investment real estate business by buying a duplex, putting 5% down, charging rent on the other side, letting that rent pay that mortgage payment until you want to go and buy another primary residence, and then have an investment property that's a dual yield as long as you want to keep that property.
Yeah.
That is literally it's bringing people into the market, being able to buy real estate with less money out of pocket to start building that generational wealth.
Wow, that's great. That is great news.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because rates are coming down, and now there's some of the barriers that would prevent you from being able to invest, right? It seems like some of those hurdles are getting a little bit lower as well.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine who I have done a duplex loan for in West Texas, and whenever he came back around he wanted to buy an investment property, a multi-unit property. And well, that took 25% down on a multi-unit investment property. Yeah. Well, now, and like we've talked about in the last 2 weeks, he can move out of this duplex that he lives in one side of it, rent that piece out, go buy this one, go buy another duplex with 5% down, and now he's got 2 duplexes right there in that same town. And he was like, I didn't think this would ever be able to happen. I thought I was stuck. I was either going to have to live in this, or I was going to have to sell it, one or the other. But now he's able to do that.
Amazing.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. So we always like to wrap a little bit of kind of fun, personal conversation into these sessions. So I wanted to share kind of a recent trip that my wife and I went on to Italy, and just an amazing country that is. One of the things that was a real takeaway for me is like the influence from other countries that have really kind of been built into the Italian identity, right? Mm-hmm. So, when you talk about pizzas, the tomatoes weren't even in Italy until Columbus went to North America, got them, and then brought them back, right? And then Queen Margaret was the one who says, hey, let's do this. And that's why it's the margarita pizza, right?
Okay,
so,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then, the coffee, right, didn't originate in Italy, but obviously it's known for that now.
Yeah.
The influence from France, from Greece, right, and these some of the African countries, all kind of make up this Italian culture that it was really neat to be able to see all the pieces and all the building blocks to kind of make it up, right? And it was also fun going to the different cities. And you have Bologna that's known for the tortellini, right, and the bolognese sauce, right, and you go and you eat it there and you're like, wow, this is the best I've ever had. And then you go to Parma, right, and then the Parmigiano Reggiano, the cheese, and we got to taste cheese that was like 25 years old, right?
Oh my!
It was just amazing. So we went to olive oil pressings, we went to balsamic vinegar places, we went up into Tuscany to the refinery, and we were able to hang out with Beppe and drink some of their wine. Just an absolutely amazing trip, and what a great country. I mean, certainly a bucket list. I know you guys have talked about going there, and I think everyone's kind of moving it up after we talked to them about our experience. But what a great people. There's these amazing churches literally like every 15 feet, right? I mean, it's not even, you can't even walk a full block without there being like this basilica that you're just like, what is this? And it's 800 years old, right? It's besides Vatican City, which is unto itself one of the most amazing places you've ever seen. But just what a great country, what a great people, culture, everything. It was just an amazing trip.
I can't imagine. I really can't imagine.
Yeah.
Some of the things I've heard you guys talking about, even just the descriptions of what you talked about. There are a lot of good places to eat here in the United States, and sometimes it just hits different whenever you're talking centuries old and how it was developed, and like you said, the influences from where it came. One of these days I really would like to go there. That is a bucket list trip for my wife and I.
Yeah, and I'm 58 years old, never drank coffee my entire life. We went over there, everybody was drinking espressos, so I'm now part of the coffee crowd. I actually start to, it's cold brew, so it's not the old black coffee and throw a bunch of stuff in it. It's a little bit different, but it's an amazing beverage as far as like when it gets to the afternoon and I'm like, oh man, I'm starting to drag a little bit. Boom, you do a little cold brew and you're like, okay, here's that second gear I've been looking for, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you need it in the morning. I'm a kind of a self-starter, early to bed, early to rise kind of guy. But come 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I start sagging, and now I get a little cold brew going, whether it's Starbucks or somebody else. And wow, I mean, I'm ready to finish strong. So
it all started over there.
Yeah, it started somewhere else, but for me, it started in Italy. Right.
Awesome.
The roots didn't really start in Italy.
And that's what I was meaning.
Yeah. But my journey began with espressos. You dump a whole packet of sugar in there, which is just horrible for a diabetic, right? It's like, hey, listen, just straight into the main line. But we on this tour we ate and drank so much that we were kind of like, oh, I'm getting tired, right? Get that little food call going. And then you just hit an espresso. You're like, all right, I'm ready for the rest of the tour. Let's go, right? So yeah, good times.
Awesome. I'm glad you guys had that trip.
Yeah, thanks.
Happy holidays, man.
Happy holidays.
Yes, sir.